Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another new episode of Mtambo podcast. My name is Jakub Mtambo, and today I have a pleasure of talking again to Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Se2 and an author of Wisdom Enterprising. With Jakub, we'll be discussing his recent article on digital native versus scanner version. And Jakub, welcome once again on Mtambo podcast.
Hi, Jake. I'm happy to see you.
Happy to see you. And let's kickstart things off by delving into an article he wrote recently. At the beginning of the year, the FDIC issued a statement urging banks to restrict their use of open, public, and decentralized protocols. It raised some eyebrows, and Caitlin Long believed this to be a typo, but what are your thoughts on this?
Right. Yeah. I mean, she observed in connection with the March events when there were like several bank failures. SVB, Silvergate, now then First Republic a bit later. And what was the first one?
Silvergate.
Silvergate, and there was
a
signature. Yeah, and then SVB, like the high profile Silicon Valley bank. But she observed in January, like FDIC was already warning the banks in some kind of strange note or text where they were urging them not to use open protocols, and then she thought it's like a typo there because it should be like a global open and blockchain protocols or something like that. But in the context of the current digital bank runs, like SVB, when there were over 40 billion that disappeared, like the depositors, like the 40 billions in deposits, 42 actually, they left the bank within hours, or let's say 2 days, up to 2 days. But really it was like one morning when the majority of the action happened. And in the light of this, I mean, it seems kind of like the regulators wanted to kind of stop the internet banking, or slow down. It's like there are these stories like from the previous financial crisis where when when there was a bank run, like some bank tellers were ordered to count the money twice, to stop to slow down the withdrawals, like people waiting in the line to get their money out. But like since you slow down by counting twice the money, you slow down the whole line, you can kind of, I don't know, get some time, get yourself some time to and to recapitalize, to maybe sell some bonds as a bank, but we live in a completely different world. So it's like the the analog regulators are lost in the digital world where you have like 24/7 banking, and there were these were like the most tech forward banks, like serving crypto clients. So they were like hit first, but what Balaji explains with his fiat crisis is that this is not a bank crisis but a central bank crisis, and ultimately even like a sovereign debt sovereign debt crisis, or fiat crisis in short. And so I mean, you have this issue of digital bank runs because you have internet banking, and people can, like in the US context, they can just in few minutes they can send money from their regular bank to some money market fund, or they can withdraw their cash, or they can send it to like a bigger bank, and there is also this kind of like tribal aspect to it, like explains Balaji. You have like the red banks, like the community banks, like the red tribe has like their smaller community kind of rural banks. Then you have the blue tribe has like these big to fail banks like JP Morgan.
Mhm.
And then you have like the tech tribe or the gray tribe, as Scott Alexander calls it, and Balaji uses this term. So you have like these technological progressives, and they have these like tech forward banks, like that served crypto clients like Silvergate and Signature. Or First Republic and Silicon Valley, and actually these were the first banks to fail. But you can also think about it like it's basically like the blue tribe kind of let these gray tribes banks fail. You know, like some of them are okay. Like yeah, I mean, you see,
Yeah,
like these were the most tech forward banks, and there are no more, or yeah, they had
really.
to yeah
Mhm.
so yeah, or you know, or they okay, the Silicon Valley Bank was kind of bailed out, right? Like but yes, the other ones, the I think Signature and Silvergate, they're gone, if I remember correctly. You know,
Yeah.
it was like recently, but time flies.
Mhm.
Yeah, and First Republic, I think, was sold to JP Morgan, you know, or
Yeah.
something like that, you know. And but even like with the previous one, I think Signature was also sold to someone, and they had to stop their crypto activity. So it was like, yeah, it was like
Mhm.
kind of like, and at least with one bank, I think it was Silvergate, like yeah, even with Signature, I think it was like kind of yeah, it was like an attack on crypto also by like some short sellers, and also like by Senator Warren, Senator Karen, you know, Elizabeth
Yeah.
Warren. Yeah, so yeah, it's a sad story. But anyhow, back to our topic. So yeah, I mean, these banks, or generally the internet banking, you know, it's like the scanner version of digitalization. It's like the intermediate version, you know, like Balaji has this like gives these three examples. Like you have a physical version, let's say a university, like a brick and mortar kind of like a university. And then you have something like Coursera, you know, like some MOOC, so like some a massive online open course, open online course, so like MOOCs. But it's like a scanner version because it has an equivalent in the physical version. So let's say you upload some lectures online, and you use it like as a MOOC, as some kind of online course. And then the question is like, what would be the digitally native version, like the third level digitally native version of, let's say, education that doesn't have an analog equivalent in the physical. So that could be something like crypto tasking and crypto credentials. In
Mhm.
the same way, you can look at banking, you know, like the internet banking kind of, and especially fintech companies. And actually, you know, there is this choke point, Operation Choke Point 2.0, by Nick Carter, like a few articles he wrote, and now he's like writing a third one. So he wrote already two articles, and he's focusing now on fintech companies. So basically, fintech are also getting the same treatment as crypto. So it's not just crypto, but they there is also kind of cons, uh, concerted effort to crush also fintech startups. So because of this, it's not just crypto that is quite fast. You know, the like. Kind of volatile or like fast to leave the bank, the banks, or like kind of but it's also fintech. So but the fintech gives you kind of like the 21st century experience, like you pay immediately. I don't know, like for, let's say, if you are using something like TransferWise, now it's called just Wise, it takes like a couple of minutes to send money across borders. But like sometimes, you know, instead of like seconds or minutes, it takes 2 days because it's there is some issue with the backend. So like all these like kind of front end kind of innovations in user experience, I mean, they're great, but they are built on a legacy backend.
Mhm.
So it was kind of became apparent with Robinhood and with the GameStop saga, where people thought that there is some kind of conspiracy, like with Robinhood, I don't know, crashing But there were some kind of issues like with Discord servers being shut down for some reasons, like around this GameStop saga, like some kind of suspicious reasons. But with the Robinhood, actually wasn't like some kind of conspiracy to shut down the app during like this craze of buying these GameStop or some kind of meme stonks. Meme stocks, like stonks as they call them, but it was like basically the legacy backend that was outdated, and it just didn't it couldn't handle such a big volume of transactions.
So
And
it's like
yeah.
another example could be like Gmail, but at the end it's like it's printed out, but it's sent via, for example, Pony Express, and scanned and finally delivered days later. Or you could so that could be like
exactly.
another
It's
example.
like 2 days later. So it's like if you write an email and it seems like it arrived instantly, but what actually happened on the back end is like somebody printed out your email and put it on a Pony Express, so it went like by horse, like by some carriage or something, like across the country. It would take like 2 days, and then it would be like delivered, scanned again, and put online. So, but like, okay, letters or emails are not fungible, meaning like, but money are fungible. Yeah, dollars are fungible. So like you have like $1 and the guys, they have another dollar, let's say across the country, and basically, you pay like you use, let's say, credit card, or I don't know, you use your kind of fintech service, and it seems like the money went directly. I mean, it went instantly, sorry. But what actually happened is like, okay, they have like some pool of cash here and here, and they just like made the transaction kind of like appear instant, but then they have to settle the balance like through this old legacy system. But if there are like too many transactions here, and they have like a small pool here, and the legacy backend is jammed because of the, and it takes 2 days anyway, so they just like ran out of this. It's just like they don't expect such a variance there, on such a, like, I don't know, it's like a gray swan event or something like that. And so they are surprised and they are gone. Like, so this is just the example of the scanner version, a very good, I think, by Balaji. The only kind of difference in this metaphor, it's kind of only problem or something. Yeah, I mean, imprecise there is that I know Balaji also explains, is it exactly like this, that money are fungible, but let's say your emails are unfungible. But it's a good kind of visual metaphor, like the Pony Express banking, So, and actually, okay, the current US administration, like as we speak, they go against Coinbase and Binance, like SEC, and they are just like, okay, they tried or to destroy the crypto banks in the US. They're like pushing everyone offshore. Actually, some companies are moving to Hong Kong out of all places. The Hong Kong seems to be crypto friendly now, which is interesting, but Dubai seems like and Singapore probably like other two good options. And Dubai is becoming quite big, maybe it's like the Silicon Valley moved to Miami, okay, but it's like now being decentralized. So it's like Dubai, it seems like interesting. It's another time zone. Yeah, so but let's see. But yeah, but so this is the scanner version, right? So they want to they are like really going against tech, and they want to kind of slow down the banking, slow down the velocity, and like but their issue is they can't succeed with this. It's not just because like technology will always win and this and that, but the issue is not just these like digital bank runs or like and they were actually not even they didn't like happen because of Twitter or something like that, but like they were started, as we discussed before, on group chats. So like group chats are even like upstream of Twitter, like you have some people like who are very close to each other. So, and they trust each other, and they exchange some kind of like warnings. And then once the news hit Twitter, or like people start tweeting about it, it's often too late. So it didn't start on Twitter, it's just like it got like big on Twitter. But like the smart money or smart people, or like well-connected people in Silicon Valley, they just got their money out even before it hit Twitter. So yeah, but even if you stopped internet banking, which is kind of sad, it's just like, I don't know, you you will make all these kids to go to the bank again, like when they're used to do like used to use their like fintech apps, like some flashy apps. Now they have to wait in line to go to the bank during the bank hours, bank opening hours. It
Yeah.
will be sad. Yeah, but you can't stop it anyhow, like this, like because it's a structural problem of devalued assets, like the bonds, because of the very rapid rate hikes in 2022. Yeah, in 2021, but at the end of 2021 and 2022. And the issue is also that it's actually not the bank run. The digital bank run is not the only story here, but it's also like what somebody called a bank walk. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just basically the money are like slowly but gradually leaving the bank system, especially the regional banks, and they're moving into money market funds. So it was like over month, So it didn't like start with Signature or Silvergate, but it started like 4 months sooner or something like that. Like it's like in December 2022, or in even sooner, like November, if I'm correct. So like it was just
Yeah.
these tech forward banks were, like as Balaji says, they were like the first fish that appeared belly up, or it's like the passengers in a plane that were seated in front. But the story is that the moral of the story is that we all gonna die, like in this metaphor of like a plane hitting to the ground, like
Mm-hmm.
Jerome Powell, like it's like yeah, driving the whole economy to the ground. So yeah, so they were just positioned in the front of the plane, like these tech forward looking banks, like, but other banks, many other banks are insolvent.
And that's a fascinating analogy, Jakub. And it's clear that we need a digital native solution that addresses these limitations. But you also mentioned digital native education in your article. Maybe can you expand on what that might look like?
Yeah, so like the scanner version, it's like a half measure, like just going back to the banking metaphor, like there is this like Breaking Bad series, and there is like one quote where it's like it's just like half measures like are not enough, or it's just you shouldn't just do the half measures, it's just like you should kind of like go all in. And so with the like digital banking, it's like a half measure, is like the scanner version, and it kind of can make the banking fragile, more fragile, right? So I think the critics might be correct in some ways. Like, okay, it's like a halfway or half measure of doing digitalization. But if you want to have like a digitally native form of money, yeah, you have Bitcoin or crypto, I don't know, Ethereum, or we like Solana here as well, but like, okay, Ethereum, as some kind of like a digitally native financial system where and digital gold as Bitcoin, right? So it's money that doesn't have equivalent in the physical world, so it's like a V3, like some people want to get back to gold, but probably gold is like it could work for sovereigns, so like for like big countries, or let's say some oil producer and some other country, like let's say China, they can trade in yuan. So yeah, I mean, China buys oil, let's say from Saudi Arabia, sells them, pays in yuan, and now the Saudi Arabia, they have yuan and they purchase some Chinese goods, let's say some electric vehicles, and but then there is some kind of rest or the difference, and they settled the difference in gold. So, but it kind of means like there is a plane filled with gold that lands in Saudi Arabia, and the guys check it with some, I don't know, some equipment, like, okay, it's a legit gold, and they're like, okay, now it's fine, and we are settled, and we sell you some more oil next quarter or something like that. So that's like, you can do it, but like but like gold is like the V1, and it can work again, but like probably for sovereigns. But the issue is like similar to city states, actually, that they were already they were uh, overcome, or they you know, they lost to the V2. So yeah, so V2 is like okay, V2 is dollar, you know, it's like fiat currencies. So gold was actually defeated by FDR, you know, as we discussed many times here in 1930s. So there was like this bill to confiscate gold. Yeah, so it was kind of defeated once, you know. So like the issue is like not to go back to the gold standard or just focus on gold, but you need a V3, and Bitcoin is like the digital gold, like with V3. And the similarly, like city state was defeated by nation state, you know, like all these city states, like almost all of them were united, I mean, under these like nation state, and kind of swallowed by nation state. So like you can't go back to city states. You need like a V3, and Balaji in his book The Network State provides like a recipe, it's not a manifesto, but it's kind of like a manual of how to create some like highly aligned communities that can grow into something like network states. So it's like a V3. And similarly, it's like thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. So the V3 has some kind of characteristics, let's say, of gold, like the digital gold, you know, it has some kind of characteristics of gold, but also of, let's say, like the digital dollar, or like dollar, you know, like the dollar as a technology as it is currently, like let's say with lightning you can send it easily. So it has like superior characteristics to both the gold and fiat, you know, in case of Bitcoin. And with your question about education, it's again, it's like, I think it's quite complicated, because education, like uh, lots of people are like have many ideas about education, but it seems like intractable. It's almost intractable. There is always something that seems like there is almost no some kind of silver bullet or some kind of magic solution. But actually, I think yeah, I mean, as Balaji explains, like all these technologies, like you have social, you know, social technology, like social networking. You know, it's actually digitally native. Like you couldn't do like something like Facebook thread, like with comments, like a Facebook post with comments. You couldn't do it with post. It would take you so much money, you know, and so much time. Imagine like you would do like commenting through postcards, you know, like there's somebody sends a postcard, and then everybody like just has to comment and actually send the comment to everyone else, you know, like just so everyone else can see like what they commented. Like if you do it like through regular mail, like snail mail, like just like one kind of Twitter thread or Facebook post, it would be like thousands of dollars or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it would be just crazy, you know. So therefore, it's like social networking is like digitally native, and you can think about, okay, Bitcoin or Bitcoin Lightning, or let's say crypto in general, also as a digitally native. And then you have also AI as a while you don't have like something like that, if yeah, so as also kind of like a digitally native solution, you know, like something like Chat GPT or some other kind of assistants, and like these large language models. And if you combine all these three digitally native technologies, like, I mean, just like, just kind of obviously you would get some digitally native form of education. Well, maybe not, because you could still, yeah, I mean, quite likely you would get some digitally native form of education. And it would be, I think, something like,
Crypto tasking?
Sorry?
Like crypto tasking and
Something like crypto tasking, but also something like like there is this, like I wrote like a couple of years ago, like a post about like digital Aristotle, like he was teaching Marcus Aurelius, he was like the most famous tutor or something. So it would be something like AI tutor and crypto tasking, and also some kind of social, like maybe there is this thing called like uh good judgment open. Actually is like an open version of a kind of program that was run by YARPA, and it's discussed in detail in the book called Super Forecasting. So basically the thing is like to have some kind of tournaments of, let's say, forecasters using AI, and was like some many years ago. So the AI was like much weaker than now. Like now you could, I don't know, like with Chat GPT, and so, but the idea is like you are learning, but you are also being checked by the real world. So yeah, it's something like crypto tasking. You can have crypto tasking because it's like also real world interactions, like actually with money, like real money in the real world. Like you are doing some kind of task and you get paid when it's like done well. So it's also kind of, yeah, crypto tasking, but it could be something like
crypto
you could
credentials.
good, yeah, like predictions, like, yeah, prediction markets, or but it could be something like good judgment open, like this kind of but let's say using crypto, or some or running on some kind of open protocols, because actually there you can check like how your predictions are faring with something called the Breyer score. It's like basically score that meteorologists use, like to assess how accurate their predictions are as a method, to predict weather. So it's like yeah, so that's like another thing. And like but you would probably work as a team, not just like, okay, at least like as you and some AI, like a hybrid or like augmented intelligence. So but I think even better probably would be like to work as some kind of like small group, or yeah, startup society, or like highly network union or something like that. But like, okay, these three technologies, um they're each of them is like digitally native. Yeah, so yeah, and if you combine them, probably you would get something like digitally native education. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. And the convergence of AI and crypto and social truly has the potential to revolutionize education, as you said. But let's shift gears for a moment. In your article, you also touch upon the concept of digital native countries. Maybe can you talk about what it entails?
Yeah, so now this would be like the V3 again, like you have like a thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, like a Hegelian synthesis, and that you can have like a productive synthesis or unproductive one. So let's say it's like yeah. So for example, there was like this idea of enterprise blockchain, as Balajos discusses, and it was kind of like an unproductive synthesis, because okay, it didn't catch, because there was no coin, there was like no token associated with it. It was like kind of like combining like two bad solutions, or two, enterprise is like quite difficult to make some changes in big companies. And if you don't have some like tokenomics associated with it, then it's like just very hard job to do, like some transformation. And so it kind of just becomes another type of database. And so, right, so that's like an example of like unproductive synthesis, but you can have like productive ones. Yeah, as we discussed, like, I don't know, digital gold as an idea with Bitcoin. Yeah, and with cloud countries, so it's like also the V3, because like the V2 was the V2 defeated the version 1, the V1. So you had like city states, and they were defeated by nation states. So, and like the V3 is something like a network state, so it would like be decentralized and started in the cloud first, land last, but not land never. So it would be something like a cloud community, like a highly aligned network union, network archipelago, then like kind of printed out onto the land as an archipelago of some kind of real estate connected by blockchain and connected by internet. So that's like the idea here. So it's like digitally native countries would start online, and they're like kind of reverse diasporas. So they I mean they start.
So it's like Balaji kind of poses a thought-provoking question: if we have created tech companies and cryptocurrency, can we create crypto countries? So it's like he envisioned digital native forms of online identities, mimetic tribes, crypto passport, and the use of AR glasses, leading to a new era of digital native nation building, right?
Yeah, and actually, like what you told me just like before we started to recording, you watched this Apple announcement, right? So they came up with some ER glasses. Like they look kind of funny, and they're pretty expensive, but like probably they're onto something. Like the first iPhone was also kind of quite limited,
Yeah, and
but then
expensive.
it's and expensive and quite limited usability, or I don't know, but it it grew like wildfire, and it became much better over time, right? So let's see. Yeah, so that's one of the technologies, like AR. Okay, crypto is also kind of slow, it's like also kind of just like difficult to use for regular people, but like as this fiat crisis kind
as
of
Bednar said,
accelerates.
yeah.
Sorry.
As Bednar Uri said, it's
Yeah,
difficult for people to use crypto.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is still, but probably it's something like with Venezuela or Lebanon, like when the fiat version of when the fiat institutions, they're kind of crumbling, then more and more people would probably find time to learn how to use it. But definitely, if it's like a more user friendly, yeah, I think we are still looking for the iPhone moment in crypto, and definitely in AR. But now it seems like it's coming from Apple, right? The AR version. I mean, the AR glasses here, and yeah, and let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it's an
Crypto
intriguing.
passports, like I don't know, we might see some early versions. We were in this like juror competition with Wazesha, and actually we you and me, and we got into the top 5 yeah, startup societies in that awards. It was like pretty cool, and it's very kind of humbling, and also like a big responsibility to create something like, right, we are brainstorming like how to I mean how to create some kind of app for training companies and student startups, and yeah, it's just
Yeah.
so, but it's like for it's basically for startup societies as well, like so yeah, it's a digitally native form of education, basically.
And actually, we are also also in Wezesha, we are also planning to come up with the Wezesha crypto passports, in partnership with or with help with Jua, So yeah, so this thing we are talking here about crypto passport is also
Or
what we are
crypto
trying.
credentials, yeah, and
Yeah.
like for let's say for some kind of tasking, or for just for learning, so that once like you pass some micro course or some, you get some like certificate in form of NFT, and it's just like visible on your passport, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and actually, so we are one of the guys who are trying to come up with or contribute to the concept of digital native countries, because with Wezesha we are trying to try to combine these things like digital native education, through one of our program, decentralized vocational education, or DIVE. And then we have, the startup society and virtual enterprises. And then we also bring the aspect of crypto rewards and also crypto passports. So, I mean, crypto tasking and crypto passports. So, yeah.
Yeah, and probably like we will start some meetups and an onboarding of some partners that we already know, like in education, or that we have worked with before, because of distribution, and like they have some connections. So, but we probably, as it should be like digitally native education, probably we will not start with schools or with high schools, as we did like in our previous project, like with or the project that we worked on previously, like with Se2, where I was the co-founder, and Duke was our colleague. So yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it's an intriguing concept, Jakub, that could reshape the way we think about nations and governance. And yeah, so the future possibilities are truly mind-boggling. Before we conclude, could you provide us with some insight into the unique qualities and innovation of Bitcoin as a digital native form of money?
Right. So, I mean, it solved the scarcity, right? It created a digital scarcity, which seems like an oxymoron, because normally you can like you can create as many PDFs as you want, like copy, paste, copy, paste. You can like copy as much as you want. So, but now it solved for digital scarcity, solving some like fundamental math issues, like Byzantine general problem. Like, I don't want to pretend I can like do the underlying math here, but just like a couple of things like that. And it's also kind of there is this proof of work, right? And it's kind of like, it kind of connects to the Jason Lowry thesis of Bitcoin as power projection, basically as like some kind of tool that will be like crucial for countries, in the future, for sovereigns. So like for protection, but also as for some kind of like power projection. So okay, so since you need a lot of energy, you like to mine a Bitcoin, so it's constrained. You can't just and there is also it kind of inverts lots of premises, like Balaji says, like longevity is kind of similar in this aspect, like, but crypto inverts the basic premises, like deflation is good, and especially if it's like technologically driven hyper deflation, like smartphones were really expensive, or just like regular mobile phones were super expensive at the beginning, and now they became kind of super cheap. Or and you have many kind of examples like these. I don't know, with electric vehicles now in China, you can get some like that cost like $10,000, and before it was like at least 10 times more, with the first models, and they probably have a similar range than the first models. So it's like you have this like deflation. And with Bitcoin, yeah, you have these like super like deflationary money. You have also like 21 million Bitcoin as a supply, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have like this fixed monetary policy, which is also kind of like very novel. You have actually public ledger, right? Like so you can actually track mm, those transactions. That is actually quite has opposite to this kind of supposed bank secrecy when it's like but it's still kind of being tracked, you know. And so now the Bitcoin is ledger is open, and you can verify the transaction. You have some kind of like blog explorers. You can build like search engines on top of it, and it's also like the truth machine.
Yeah. And
And
it's
it's
also
also examples of sorry.
it's also a form of money battery.
Yeah, money battery or like virtual oil, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's also a way of doing crypto history, like recording. You can actually record some events or some kind of like messages, and they're very difficult to alter or to delete and to yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you know, like it's difficult to store oil. You know, it's expensive and it's dangerous, but you can store Bitcoin in your
Mm.
hardware wallet, sorry, or yeah, it's just like use Bitcoin Lightning for paying for payments as a L2, like layer two. So Bitcoin Lightning. Yeah, I mean, and many things. I think it goes back to the example of Pony Express, or to the example of a Facebook thread, like doing it through snail mail. It's kind of like super expensive or impractical. And with Bitcoin, it's like, okay, Balaji also discusses how it's for the power users and the powerless. And it's also like, let's say, for very big transactions and very small transactions, like micropayments, like with Bitcoin Lightning, you know, like zapping on Noster.
Yeah.
We discussed like just before our podcast also like some idea like of Wezesha, like using Nostr, like we zap, you know,
Hmm.
like we are zapping, so something like that, or some similar ideas like that. So yeah, you can like just like tip, give tips, like do tipping, like very small amounts, like with Lightning, or just I don't know, some podcasts, or paying for every minute of podcast that you listen to, or something like that, like some like crazy things. Or Juraj Bednar, he explains in his paper the post-COVID recovery, like how countries should invest also in, or how they should develop their crypto economies and crypto industry. And he explains, like, for example, like flash loans or these kind of innovations where, you know, like many things, like with staking and Ethereum. Now you have basically something like like the digitally native form of like bond issuance or something like that, if I understand it correctly, like with the recent changes in Ethereum, something like with staking, and then you can like yeah, like seamlessly, like I don't know, get off. Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot kind of like the exact phrasing. Like what's the exact thing like with the staking, some innovation. I have to think about it. I like forgot the name. I mean, I just used it on Coinbase, like just trying it out, but I don't know. Yeah, of course you have like wrapped BTC and these kind of things. So like kind of strange or various like use cases like in DeFi. Mm, yeah. So you have yeah, basically like with Facebook post or with Twitter feed, sorry, Twitter thread, you have like something that is digitally native. And I think like a couple of examples that we discussed here are also like clearly just you can't do it with dollars or like with bank wires and like with Swift, you know. It would be just like you can do like loads of like very global, very small, or very big transactions. So until recently, it wasn't so great at buying coffee at a coffee shop, which is like some kind of like, it's not too big and it's not too small. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of like in the middle kind of transaction there, but it's also like with Lightning, it's like becoming kind of easier and easier.
Thank you, Jakub, for sharing your thought-provoking insights on these fascinating topics. It's been a truly enlightening conversation.
Duke, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm happy that we discussed this interesting topic of digitally native versus the scanner version of digitalization.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation with Jakub Simek. Please don't forget to subscribe, give this episode a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, this is Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.